Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. I'm lucky as hell to be here for the simple fact that today was an absolute shit show of a day when it comes to work. And I honestly didn't think I was going to make it in time. I was like, it's either going to happen later or it ain't going to happen today. But I'm super fucking excited and pumped because I needed it to happen today because I am so hyped for this Jake Paul, Nate Diaz fight. I know a lot of diehard, hardcore MMA fans, especially, are like, whatever. People aren't that interested in the gimmicky fucking influencer fights, but this is a professional boxing match. Jake Paul's been having them with other MMA fighters. And here's the thing, I don't give a fuck about Jake Paul. What I give a fuck about is Nate Diaz. That's my boy, Triple OG. Gotta love him. Diaz Army right here. And fucking, I'm biased. I don't give a fuck. All I gotta say, you guys should not be surprised because
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
That's right. I'm not surprised either, motherfuckers. If you know me, you know I've been a Nate Diaz fan for a long fucking time. So, I'm hyped. I've been watching everything because I had, like I said, I had a shitty ass day at work today. I was in an area where the service wasn't great. There was all kinds of shit going down, craziness. I didn't have a chance to look at anything. I was seeing notifications come in here and there very sporadically. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? I don't even know. I can't even take a minute to check because I didn't have good service. Couldn't get anything to load. It was an absolute shit show. So I was like pissed all day. And then I finally get off and I'm like, okay, I can make it. I can do this. I have a little bit left to prep. I got to finish up my stuff and then I got to get to it. So I'm here. I made it. I'm fucking excited to talk about this. Nobody's home besides me, so I got the dogs in the room. So hopefully you don't hear any barking at any point in time. But yeah, I was rushing, man. It was like last minute shit here. But like I said, I'm excited. There's a fuckload of stuff to talk about, like all kinds of shit to talk about. I tried to cut it back a little bit, and I was gonna cut it down even more today. But I had already started. I already gotten a bunch of shit together, and when I got home, it was like one track mind. Just get this shit going so that I can get started right away on at 7 like normal. So I feel like my hat's all crooked. I feel like everything's off. But whatever. I need a drink. That's what I need. I haven't had a drink yet. I barely had a chance to make my drink. Too much shit going on, man. It's fucking crazy. Sometimes I put too much pressure on myself. And, I like to get here and be consistent. Be here every Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Arizona time, like always. Oh, man. But it's a chore sometimes. So I earn my drink. So, yeah. Oof. Damn. That one feels stronger than usual. So, let's get to it. Because, like I said, a bunch of shit to talk about. I even need nicotine right now. You know what? I don't even care. I don't usually do it while I'm podcasting, but I'm fucking dying here. I'm stressing. So let's get to it. Let's get started. No more bullshit. And we're going to start with a part of what's actually happening on that Jake Paul, Nate Diaz fight card. Some news from one of the fighters that are going to be fighting on that fight card Saturday night. Let's get going with that. Amanda Serrano is fighting on that fight card against Heather Hardy. And she is also now signed to PFL because she is somewhat under the wing of Jake Paul. He has brought her up in boxing, in the fight, in his fight promotion. He's been pulling the strings. He's been getting things together. He's been making big fights for her and making sure that things are going down. She's part of MVP, and now she's a part of PFL. She does have a background in MMA. She has had 3 MMA fights before. So she is now signed under the PFL Super Fights division. And, you know, she's going to be fighting in MMA again. So her last fight in MMA was in 2021, which she fought in Icon Fighting Federation. Before that, she fought in Combates America. If you haven't heard of that, that's like a, you know, like a kind of Latin like type, I don't even know what to call it, like organization. It's all in Spanish basically if you watch the broadcast and stuff. Obviously you can get stuff in English too, but yeah, it's one of those type. And she had 2 fights there, so she's actually 2-0 and 1, because her first fight was a unanimous draw. And that was back in 2018, where she had 2 of her 3 fights. She won her second fight by submission, by rear naked choke, and that was also in Combate Americas. And then she fought one more time in 2021, and she won that by submission by guillotine as well. So you got a professional, highly decorated boxer that has 3 fights in MMA, 3 legitimate fights in MMA, 2 of them that she won by submission, and the other one is a draw. She hasn't even lost. She's undefeated in MMA, and now she's signed to fight in the PFL Super Fights division. And I mean, it's pretty dope, I think, because she's a badass boxer, and like I said, she's highly decorated, and yet she has 2 wins in MMA by submission. So this girl knows what the fuck she's doing. This is pretty dope. This was announced yesterday, I believe, on the MMA Hour. But yeah, she's so signed to fight with the PFL. Pretty badass. It's looking like she's not gonna fight in MMA for, you know, a minute still, but she's definitely gonna be there under that, you know, Super Fights division that we haven't actually seen a whole lot come out of that yet. You know, Francis Ngannou is signed under that division. I believe Jake Paul signed under that division. Obviously, Jake Paul's pretty caught up right now, tied up with this event that's happening this weekend, which I'm hyped to get to, and I got a lot of other shit to talk about, so I'm gonna get going on that. But Amanda Serrano signed to PFL. We'll go over her a little more in a little bit, because again, she is a part of that fight card happening this weekend. Let's move on. Last weekend, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford. Man, that was a dope fight. It turned out to be pretty exciting. I didn't watch it minute for minute, but I watched a lot of the highlights. I've sunk in all of the news and the hype and all the talk, and watched all the everything. I've done it all, because, you know, this was one of the biggest fights that has happened in a while. You know, since, well, including Tank Davis and Garcia. I'm losing track here, but you know, this is like one of the big fights that happened when it was supposed to. So it's pretty badass. I'm happy it happened. There's some things that, you know, a lot of people were wondering about. Errol Spence had been in a nasty car accident and had to have surgery and all kinds of craziness. He had a retina surgery on his eye. He was crazy injured. I don't know, it was nuts. Like, people say it changed him, and according to the way he fought it, it seems like a lot of people are convinced that he's not the same whatsoever. And you know, he put up a decent fight from what I understand, but it did happen. But the story was all about Terrence Bud Crawford, who got the win. He just did work. Basically, it seemed like a lot of people were thinking it was kind of an even fight until Crawford started dropping Spence. And basically, you know, it went to the 9th round. He dropped him about 3 times. I didn't catch them all here, but, you know, look at the smile on his face when he dropped him. He's like, yep, that's right. Confidence kicked in. You know, he's ready to go, and he's ready to finish this fight because he knows what's up at this point in time. Lots of hard punches. Spence was beat the fuck up at the end of the fight, and a lot of people were kind of worried about him with all the damage he took. But, you know, that's boxing. Got through another knockdown again. Crawford just kind of bouncing away like, yep, that's right, got him again. This is about to be over. And look at that, round 2, it says in the background. So, I mean, it went 9 rounds, but Terrence Bud Crawford came out the winner with all the belts and that fancy ass Prime chain. If you recognize that, it's because Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski both had those when they became the first Prime athletes, the first MMA Prime athletes, actually. So I guess they're giving everybody those chains. He's holding the Prime drink. So yeah, he's got that sponsor and he's proud of it, and I'm sure they're paying him well. So that chain that's no joke. But now he's got all those belts. He's happy. It was a damn good fight. It was cool that it finally took place when it did. It sucks that there's all these things hanging around about Errol Spence and everything that he's been through, and the fact that people, are talking about him just not being the same. But in the end, Crawford is the undisputed welterweight champion, and that's all there is to it. That's what he was looking to do. I'm sure he doesn't give a shit about what everybody else thinks. He's the champ and he's undisputed now, and that's the way that goes. So he looked pretty damn good, and it was a great fight. I wish I would have watched it all. I kept hearing throughout the night, but I was busy watching UFC 291, which was a dope ass card as well. So we'll get into that here in a few, but I had to give props to Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence for putting on a show and making it entertaining and making it a great fight. And obviously it's big in combat sports. It's one of the biggest boxing matches to happen in recent times. So definitely had to go through that one. But let me take a look here, because I forgot to bring up one other thing that I can reference. And it's pretty important because I actually need to be able to know what the fuck I'm talking about with this one. There's so many things going on. I mean, there's a ton of shit going on this weekend as far as fights go. And one of them is PFL with their 2023 playoffs happening. It's back. It's been out for a couple weeks. They give them some breaks. They give them some time to recover because these guys are fighting over and over again. So sorry, I got to check on my dogs because I got one just laid out on the ground. Our bigger dog, Jade, is just laid out, just happy as can be, asleep. And my little dog, Benny, is just sitting here, and he kind of freaked himself out because he bumped his leg on the door and the door moved, and he's like spazzing out. Anyway, now I'm getting distracted. But yeah, PFL 2023 playoffs. Bubba Jenkins versus Jesus Pinedo. So, I mean, this is pretty dope seeing Bubba Jenkins get up there and continue to win and be at the top of this card. There's not a ton of big names on this card, but I'm excited, like I said, to see Bubba Jenkins there. I've followed him for a few years now and listened to him on some podcasts that he was on. The MMA Roasted podcast, he was on there quite a bit a few years ago. So I was, getting pretty much weekly updates on what was going on with him, and he was having his struggles back then with losing and stuff, but now he's at the top of this card in the PFL playoffs, vying for that $1 million purse. So good luck to him. Fighting Jesus Pinedo, who is 21-6. They're both 21-6, surprisingly, or coincidentally, is what I meant to say. Other fights on the card that might be of note: Chris Wade, former UFC fighter, versus Gabriel Braga. That's a featherweight bout. We got Impa Kasangane, who's also a former UFC fighter, versus Martine Hamlet. That's a light heavyweight bout. Let's see who else. That's about it that I'm seeing that I recognize. And yeah, so catch that. That's happening tomorrow night. Yeah, Friday, August 4th. Today's Thursday. Yes, I'm on the podcast, so it's Thursday. In San Antonio. So check that out. Happening on ESPN Plus. Yep. So we also have a one championship card happening tomorrow as well, on Prime Video. So that's another one of these cards happening on Prime Video on Friday nights. So if you have Prime, you can watch it. Check it out if you're into one championship. Again, like I always say, it's a multitude of different martial arts. So it's like true mixed martial arts, except they actually fight in each like different version of martial arts. So the main event is actually featherweight kickboxing world championship event. Chingiz Alazov, I think, against Murat Grigorian. Holy shit, man. Those are tough ass names. And then your co-main event is a flyweight submission grappling world championship with the fucking GOAT right now, Mikey Musumeci, fucking doing big things, constantly winning. He looks like a goddamn wizard, and he is training Mark Zuckerberg. He was doing private lessons with him before, and he's also training him now that the talks about Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk are happening. So he is fighting Jared Brooks in a submission grappling title fight. So there's that. And then you got John Lineker, former UFC fighter, versus Kim Jae Wong. That's a bantamweight MMA fight. Let's see who else you got here of note. Nobody else that I really recognize, you know. But there's Muay Thai fights, there's MMA fights, there's submission grappling, and kickboxing. So you got a little bit of everything going on this card. That's happening tomorrow night on Prime Video. So check that out if you're into that. Let's move on to this week's episode of The Ultimate Fighter, Season 31. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. We are into the semifinals now. This is the second fight of the semifinals this week. We had Brad Katona versus Timur Valiev, or Valiev. Tough name too. But this seemed like one of the better fights. I watched the fight only. I didn't watch all of it because I didn't get a chance to. I was out of town for the beginning of this week for work. So I didn't get a chance to watch the full episode. Seems like it was kind of a run-of-the-mill, like, whatever, nothing crazy happening. But the fight itself was pretty damn good. And you can tell that just by looking at this. Brad Katona got fucking busted open right away in the first round, which I believe they said it was actually a clash of heads. Let me look here and just double check. Man, of course it's not going to tell me right away. But anyway, Brad Katona came back to Team McGregor because that's actually his normal team that he trains with. And I'm looking to see because I think my wife might be home or something, because then he's on high alert. Yep, she's home. Hi. 1 second. You want to take them? I'm like, get the distractions out of my room. Just kidding. I love him to death, but you know. All right, sorry about that. Thank you. So yeah, Brad Katona, clash of heads. Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying he usually trains and fights out of SBG in Ireland, and he was back on Conor McGregor's team because Conor only had one guy in the semis. So he was ready to get back over there. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really say. I know they were talking about clash of heads and stuff, but I guess Valiev landed some crazy kick and Dana White was like, how the fuck did he do that? And it did look crazy when I was watching the fight. He did this crazy quick little switch kick like out of nowhere. But something busted up Brad Katona and he was bloody from round one. And in the end though, Katona fought through all the blood, got the win, was pretty happy about it. A lot of people were kind of undecided as to whether or not he deserved that win. but it sounded like it was it was a great fight all the way through because I did watch it, but it sounded like a lot of people were kind of back and forth on who they thought would have should have actually won. So, but in the end, Brad Katona is now Team McGregor and gets another win for Team McGregor, which makes more wins now than he had all season because of the change of teams. So Brad Katona looks like he's in there to win it, man. I mean, obviously he's been there before and he's won it before, and it looks like he's ready for that second chance. So that might actually be something that comes to fruition for him, which is kind of dope. I don't really like the way he handles himself with certain things, but I have watched him since he was on The Ultimate Fighter last time, and you know, he was always one of those guys, like, I don't know, for some reason I was drawn to watching his fights and whatnot. So we'll see where he goes with that one. So let's move on to the other big event that happened last weekend, or another big event that happened last weekend, because there was 3. There was Spence versus Crawford and Bellator versus Rizin Part 2. The second iteration of, you know, the two promotions co-promoting and fighting in Saitama Super Arena in Japan. And this happened last Saturday. It might have been overshadowed a bit by the big boxing fight and the UFC 291 pay-per-view. But in true Bellator fashion, why wouldn't they put a big event like this in the middle of all kinds of other events that are going to overshadow it, because they're horrible at promoting. Maybe that's half the reason why they're getting sold. I don't know. But their promotion is not great. So their fights are usually pretty damn good, though. And this one was supposed to be Patricky Pitbull versus AJ McKee, but AJ McKee got injured. So in his place, Roberto Satoshi D'Souza wound up stepping in to fight Patricky Pitbull. And then you had Kyoji Horiguchi versus Makoto Takahashi. Yeah, tough one. Shinryu, though, that's the easier way to say it. But yeah, those were the 2 top fights on that card. And then a little lower in the card, well, to start off that main card, though, we had a pretty good fight with Andrei Koreshkov versus Lorenz Larkin. So this fight was pretty damn good, actually, from what I saw with all the highlights and whatnot. I mean, with those 2 names too, you would think it would be pretty damn good. I feel like the music is just booming, man. I don't know if it sounds that way to everybody out there, but yeah, that shit's just banging in my ears. Kind of distracting. But yeah, Lorenz Larkin came out ready to fight. Was looking pretty good in the beginning. And, you know, they had some really good exchanges back and forth. But Koreshkov just took over and wound up, you know, kind of just overpowering Lorenz Larkin and getting the best of him in the later rounds. And wound up winning. You know, it was a pretty close fight, you know, like I said, but Koreshkov wound up running away with it. I mean, it was a split decision, but he did get the win. And, you know, that's what counts for him. I kind of feel bad for Lorenz Larkin because, like I said, he came out looking pretty decent in that fight. And I do believe that this might be... Oh, no, it's only... stupid pop-ups. He did... Nah, he just hasn't lost in a while, so that's probably why that one hit him for a bit. He's been on a pretty decent win streak with a no contest mixed in there. So, but Koreshkov gets the win over Lorenz Larkin, and that puts him at a 5-fight win streak. So moving on from that, we had Sabatello versus Magomedov, and you know, this one Magomedov got the submission by guillotine in the first round. Sabatello just looked like he was out of his league in this one, and Magomedov just did work. So that's how that one went down. And then we had Kana Watanabe. I spelled it wrong on my stream deck. What an idiot. I did some dyslexic shit and I was putting different... Never mind. I'm just laughing. It was too hard to ignore. is just hilarious. Anyway, Kana Watanabe versus Vida Arteaga, something like that. But this was a pretty decent battle between two flyweight women, and Watanabe. It's tough to say that one without looking at it. As you can see here, you know, kind of getting the best of Arteaga, and wound up getting the unanimous decision win over 3 rounds. Ooh, I thought I was gonna sneeze. Oh, shit, sorry about that. But yeah, she gets that decision win over Arteaga, and that puts her at, oh, she's got kind of a mixed up win-loss. She was coming off a loss to Lima McFarland, so she's back in the win column on that one. And the next fight, the co-main event, was Kyoji Horiguchi versus Makoto Takashi, or Shinryu, whichever name you want to call him. And this one was interesting. I mean, it looks like from the get-go, you know, Horiguchi came out to fight, but there was an accidental eye poke, unfortunately. I mean, and this all happened in the first round, like early, right away. You know, a little bit of an exchange, and then I guess Horiguchi caught an eye, and Takashi, as you can see, big fucking swelled up eye. My tongue swelled up, apparently. I can't talk, but his eye got swollen pretty quickly, which led to the doctor's stoppage. So in the pretty early, not even a minute into the first round, we get that doctor stoppage, accidental eye poke, so it's a no contest there. So that was a damn shame. But then we move on to the main event. Roberto De Souza, you know, he looked pretty game in the beginning of this fight. You see, it did go 3 rounds, and you know, like I said, he came out looking like he was ready to go, pulling off Patricky Pitbull type strikes against Pitbull himself. But you know, Pitbull couldn't let that happen for too long. Took over, started winning with the strikes, threw some flying knees of his own. And I mean, it's hard to tell the difference between them two, considering they both are wearing white shorts and doing the same types of fucking moves. I mean, obviously Pitbull has some pretty distinct tattoos on him, but I mean, even if you look quickly, I mean, they look fairly similar. It's hilarious. But yeah, after that flying knee, De Souza went down and you know, was pretty damaged from there. And then Patricky Pitbull wound up TKOing him by leg kicks. So I mean, that's a hell of a way to go out. Pitbull with the win, and it looks like pretty much Bellator with the win overall in that battle of Bellator versus Rizin. So that's about it for that one. Now let's move on to this banger of a card for the UFC. This we will spend a little more time on because UFC 291 was, again, back-to-back badass cards. Last month for UFC 290, or earlier this month, I should say. I'm sorry. We're in August now, but this was still in July. A week ago. But yeah, that was one of those crazy-ass cards again. After having that one for International Fight Week, UFC 290, and then we get this one. So, some damn good cards here, and we got more good cards coming up. I mean, I can't even tell you what's coming up. I know the one in September is going to be dope. The one in August, I don't even remember what the fuck it is because I have been just hyped over all of the fights that have been happening recently. Let me see. UFC 292 is August 19th. That's actually the one I was thinking of. Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. Weili Zhang versus Amanda Lemos. Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary. I mean, fuck. That's happening August 19th. And then September 9th What the fuck? Well, September 9th is when Israel Adesanya is supposed to be fighting in Sydney, Australia, against supposedly Sean Strickland, but I'm not sure. I know that it's not confirmed yet, and it's not a completed bout yet. So they're trying to make that one happen. If they're trying to make sure they get Izzy on that card. But I was thinking of this month's fight, August 19th, with Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. That's gonna be dope. I'm excited for that one. That looks like a damn good card up and down as well. But back to UFC 291, which happened last weekend. Badass card. I was happy. Patrick, who's been on the podcast multiple times, came down from Phoenix and came and hung out with us. Him and his wife and girlfriend. What? Girlfriend? Wife? Wife. Their wife. What am I talking about? Wife. Yeah, they came in and hung out with us, and we had a good time. There was a decent amount of us, and it was a good night of fights. It was a good night of hanging out with some good people. So I was happy about that last weekend, and the fights were great, like I said. And we can start from the very bottom because I wanted to kind of go over some of these finishes that happened throughout the entire card, actually, because I was actually excited about Miranda Maverick versus Priscilla Cachoeira, and it didn't disappoint. Miranda Maverick was doing work for sure, and Cachoeira didn't know how to handle it, and she kind of started fighting in a weird kind of way. Somebody's always talking about her fighting dirty. She did get her hand wrapped up in Miranda Maverick's top and kind of pulled it down a little, and that was the whole thing. And she was grabbing the fence and doing all kinds of other weird kind of suspect shit, but in the end, Miranda Maverick came out on top, got this nasty armbar. And also the ending, the finish was fucking weird too. Like the way that she tapped, she did this like weird little, like she like barely tapped once and then like moved her hand away real quick, and the ref just jumped in and was like ready to stop the fight, and then she just let it go because it was like a quick tap. And then all of a sudden she tapped completely. She didn't have a choice. She was going to get that arm broken. But yeah, it's just little shit like that Cachoeira does, and it's always questionable. So, but that was a damn good fight. Then we had Uros Medic versus Matthew Semmelsberger. This was a banger. These fools were going back and forth. Semmelsberger always throwing crazy strikes, and then with that hair, it looks like everything that hits him hard. But Medic's got that. He actually did hit him really hard and wound up catching him with a spinning back fist and then following it up with a bunch of punches on the ground. That back fist was actually more like a forearm, but it caught Semmelsberger out of nowhere. It was kind of weird. The way they showed it in the fight was a little bit at a weird angle, so it was one of those questionable ones, like what the fuck just happened. Then you had to wait and watch the replay, and you're like, oh shit, that's what the fuck just happened. And yeah, I mean, it was an exciting fight. That's number 2 fight on the early prelims. Like those first 2 fights on the early prelims were damn exciting, and it was a great way to start the night. I knew it was going to be a good night of fights when it starts off like that, which, I mean, there's always a chance that it starts off great, ends off shitty, but the way that started, it felt like UFC 290 all over again. But then we move on to the third fight of the night. So we're still in the way bottom of the card, and I wanted to go over them because they were just so damn good. But we had Jake Matthews versus Darius Flowers. There was some weird that happened in this fight too. Everybody was kind of questioning it. One of my daughter and her boyfriend were arguing about what actually happened. there was Jake Matthews kicked Darius Flowers, and it looked like initially that it might have been a kick to the nuts. So Flowers like doubled over in pain, but he grabbed his stomach, not his junk. So it was like, what the fuck? And everyone's kind of questioning what happened. We watched the replay, and it looks like Matthews just dug his toes into the gut of Darius Flowers, and he, it looked like it might have skimmed the cup. I watched it over and over again, like a couple times the next day, and I was like, I could see how it might have hurt, but I think it hurt him more that he got fucking liver kicked like he did. I mean, it was pretty close to the liver, but he got, those toes dug in, and it was nasty. So he got away with something right there because he did get some time. But Jake Matthews came back and, you know, oh shit, that's the same one. Jake Matthews came back, wound up catching him by a rear naked choke in the second round. So, you know, he got him back for the little fake out and you know, took that win. Next fight, though, Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro. And Kopylov just looks like fucking Chase Hooper's evil older brother or something. Everyone was like trying to figure out Chase Hooper's name. We couldn't remember. My wife is a fan of his on Instagram because she thinks he's hilarious. And, you know, he's just kind of got that like dry humor, kind of, you know, sarcastic undertones. And, you know, he's just kind of a cool dude. He's just like I don't know, he's very quiet yet, but he's funny. So anyway, everyone's like, what? This guy looks like Chase Hooper, Ben Askren or something. It's like Ben Askren's evil son. Either way, he looked damn good in this fight. You know, he was just taking it all out on Ribeiro, and he wound up getting that first head kick of the night, head kick KO in the second round, like 33 seconds into the second round. Follows it up with some hammer fists and finishes off Claudio Ribeiro. And I mean, fuck, once again, like I said, that was the fourth fight of the night, and I was like, if it keeps going like this, we're in for some goddamn fireworks. And we were, because it was a damn good night of fights, and it just kept going. I'm not going to go over the decisions because none of them were that, you know, obviously none of them were that exciting. But there's only one decision in the fucking undercard. You know, all of the early prelims and the regular prelims were finishes by submission or KO or TKO. There's only one decision, CJ Vergara versus Vinicius Salvador. And I mean, that wasn't even that bad of a fight. It just was the only one that went to decision. But the last fight on the prelim card was Gabriel Bonfim versus Trevin Giles. And Bonfim came out. He has a brother that fights in the UFC as well. And, you know, he came out with something to prove. Like, he wanted to make sure that everyone knew about him too, not just his brother, who has been doing work in the UFC as well. But yeah, he was throwing Trevin Giles around and wound up catching him you know, pretty early in the first round. Sorry, I got something, feels like something's hitting me or something on my neck. Pretty early in the first round, submission by guillotine, and he almost popped Trevin Giles' head off his fucking shoulders because he sunk in that damn guillotine and just kept cranking it. And like, Giles was trying to get his head out. It was bent all weird. I was in pain watching it. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, just tap already. What the fuck are you doing? It just kept trying to get out. Bonfim kept tightening his grip and squeezing on that neck. And you know, Giles had to have a fucking sore neck the next day because, yeah, like I said, it looked like his head was about to pop off. That was a nasty ass guillotine and a great win for Gabriel Bonfim. But moving on to the main event, we had Kevin Holland versus Michael Chiesa, which, you know, Chiesa hadn't fought in a like almost 2 years, maybe something like that. I know I looked it up last time, but I gotta look at it again. It was 2021, so it was November of 2021, so almost 2 years. He was coming off 2 losses, one to Vicente Luque and one to Sean Brady. So, you know, he's been doing a lot of commentating. I'm pretty sure he got hurt somewhere in there or something like that. Not commentating, but analyst work and stuff. He might have been commentating here and there too, but you know, everyone was like, oh cool, Chiesa's back, getting off of the desk and getting back into the cage. But he's fighting somebody like Kevin Holland, who is a fucking game opponent, and this dude doesn't fuck around. You know, he's always talking shit in the cage. He has his ups and downs when it comes to, you know, his fights. You know, he had 2 losses in a row, but against Khamzat Chimaev, which, you know, that was a crazy, weird kind of, whoa, just flash out on my screen. That was odd. Hamzat Chimaev, though, that fight was last minute, change up in the card, and he fought up away. It was a catch weight fight. And then he lost to Steven Wonderboy Thompson after that, which was an impressive win by Thompson. But he was coming off a win against Santiago Ponzinibbio, which was a pretty good win for Kevin Holland. And then he went ahead and continued to win by catching Chiesa by sub, which is Chiesa's, like, I don't know how many times he's been caught by a Darce choke or a Bravo choke, they're calling it. I don't know if it's some kind of different choke or why they call it that, but he's been submitted by that, which he lost to Jorge Masvidal in 2013 by that choke. And I don't know, I guess there's something weird about him and Darce chokes or Bravo chokes. He lost to Vicente Luque that way as well. Just looks like he needs to work on his defense for that. But yeah, he actually predicted it. He said in an interview with Daniel Cormier, he was like saying something like, "Oh, I just need to watch out for that Darce choke or something like that, because apparently I have bad luck with the Darce choke," and then he winds up getting submitted with a Darce choke. So, it's a damn shame for Michael Chiesa. I hope he, kind of focuses a little more on the fighting, or else just goes ahead and goes all in on analyst work and desk work. He's got a decent job at the UFC, so maybe it might be about that time. Or maybe he just focuses a little more on training. Who knows? Kevin Holland with that win, though, and that was in the first round. So, I keep feeling like I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, sorry. I keep, moving my face. I'm like, if it's coming, just let it come out already, because it's bugging the hell out of me. All right, moving on from Kevin Holland versus Michael Chiesa, we had Bobby Green versus Tony Ferguson. Now, I was looking forward to this fight, but only because Tony Ferguson's always involved in a crazy-ass fight, because he's either beating the living shit out of somebody or somebody's beating the living shit out of him. And, that's true for a lot of fighters in the UFC, but he's one of those guys that you know what's going to happen when you watch one of his fights. And unfortunately, as you can see here, this was one of those fights where he was just getting his ass whooped. And he just didn't look good. I mean, he looked okay in the beginning of the fight, the first round or two, but it wasn't looking good for him. He just, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's damage. I don't know if it's just too many wars. I don't know. But Bobby Green came out to fucking win, and that's what he actually did. He bloodied up Ferguson, fucking caught him left and right, over and over and over again. And in the end, in a weird way, winds up getting Tony Ferguson in something that nobody would have expected him to do, which was submit him by arm triangle choke. I mean, with seconds left in the first round. It was kind of crazy. But nobody expected Ferguson to get submitted by Bobby Green, of all people. Not exactly what you would think is going to go down in this fight. You figured he was going to get knocked out again, or he was just going to go to a decision, and he was getting his ass kicked for a while and losing that decision. But instead, Bobby Green took advantage, caught him in that triangle choke, and submitted him for that win. So Tony Ferguson goes to 6 losses in a row. I can't even say it because it's fucking sad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses in a row. Now, don't get me wrong. Look at these names: Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, Michael Chandler, Nate Diaz, and now Bobby Green. Like, all kinds of big fucking names that he's losing to. But damn, if you can't win in the upper echelon of this division, which, by the way, some of those names, I mean, Nate Diaz was on his way out of the UFC already. Michael Chandler is up there right now, so it is what it is. But none of these guys, except for Charles Oliveira, it is or has been a champ. So it's kind of crazy. And he's just losing left and right. 6 losses in a row. He was talking about possibly making a run for a title, saying, 5 fights and I'm there, blah, 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 blah. But it's unfortunate. because he definitely dropped the ball. He lost badly, and everyone's wondering why he's still fighting. So that's a damn shame. But good for Bobby Green. That was a good win for him. And yeah, we'll see where he goes from there. And we'll see what kind of turnaround Tony Ferguson tries to make or decides to make, or what decision he makes. Who knows? But moving on to some happier things. Happier in the case of Derek Lewis, who, holy shit, did Derek Lewis come out ready to go. This motherfucker was like, I am the heavyweight Jorge Masvidal. And he just came out like a fucking beast. Flying knee right away, first move of the fight. No glove touch or nothing. It was just like, bam, let's do this shit. And fucking, it turned out good for him, because I thought it was a 38-second win in the first round. It was 33 seconds. So I was even wrong on that one. But he came out with a fucking bang. Caught that flying knee. Dropped Rogerio de Lima to the ground. Dropped those fucking massive hammer fists down on him. And then got the win in 33 seconds. And in true, normal Black Beast fashion, we got the celebration out of him. And then, the funniest shit ever. This was the greatest shit. Fucking Derek Lewis takes off his shorts. Talks about his balls is hot again. Runs around the cage with his shorts off, swinging it in the air. If you remember that song from back in the day, you know, take your shirt off and swing it like a helicopter. This was him doing that with his shorts. He's running around in his boxers and fucking does a DX chop, tells everyone to suck it like 3 times, and then gets on the mic with Rogan and just says the funniest shit. Rogan asks him, did you plan for that to happen? He's all, hell no. That was just some bullshit I was hoping to fucking land. It was so funny, man. It was the best part of the night, I swear. Like, it didn't even, the other fights were so damn good. Everything was great. But watching Derek Lewis in the midst of his celebration, being happy, coming off a great fucking knockout win, you can't beat it, man. And then he's always fucking funny on the mic, funny with his antics. There's no way around it. It's a good time when Derek Lewis fights and wins. So even when he doesn't win, he's hilarious. So this shit was funny. It was great. It was a good way for him to end his UFC contract, because now he's a free agent. He says he wants to be back in the UFC, and I'm hoping he gets re-signed. I don't know how they can let him go. He's fucking entertaining. He's popular as shit, win or lose. And it looks like he's on his way to doing some good shit, because he told everybody he was going to come out with a six-pack in the weigh-ins. And the motherfucker did. I mean, it wasn't like this impressive, like, chiseled six-pack, but he had a six-pack. So what can you say? Except he didn't lie. He was telling the truth. And then he came out and wrecked shit. So it was badass. I was super happy for Derek Lewis. I had fun watching that fight. I had fun watching his celebration, listening to him speak on the mic. And I hope that they re-sign him, get him back in here, give him some more good fights. And let's see some more of this happening, because it's way too much fun. If you missed it, go back and watch it. And don't miss the next Derek Lewis fight. Although, the interesting thing people have been talking about, if he's a free agent, maybe he can get signed by the PFL and go fight Francis Ngannou. Not a bad idea. I don't know if he really wants to do that. He says he likes being in the UFC. So we'll see what he decides, where things go, and if the UFC even allows it, because they could just be like, hey, you ain't going nowhere, and give him a contract and just get it done. So that's what I'm hoping for, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So we went from that exciting fight to the unfortunate fight that I was super excited for and thought was going to be great and fantastic. It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. It wasn't fantastic at all. Alex Pereira versus Jan Blachowicz. Now you can see here, Alex is getting his normal heavy punches, that big left hook landing on Jan. And he got an uppercut here, nasty uppercut with Jan. But Jan did try to, get some grappling in, do some wrestling, He did take down Pereira a few times, and he did try pretty damn hard, but it just seems like, I mean, Blachowicz is like almost 40 now, or is 40. I don't even know. He's getting up there in age. Seems like he had his title run, and it's just kind of over now. I just don't think he can hang with the upper echelon that are like in contention. I just feel like he is ready to just get some fun fights in there, some different kinds of fights, and maybe not be fighting the biggest, baddest killers of them all. I thought this might be a slugfest and a crazy fight, or a quick, nasty knockout type fight, but it wasn't. But, it's good for Pereira. He gets himself, some more time under his belt in the octagon, and shows that he can go get a decision win. It was a split decision too. So, people were wondering if at the end of the third round that Blachowicz got that takedown that would have won it, because it seemed like it was 1-1 on the rounds. But he got the takedown, didn't do a whole lot with it, didn't cause any damage, and wound up losing in the end. He looked like he was obviously surprised that he lost. I think he thought he had it in the bag, but it was way too close, and he thinks he got robbed. But I think it was just one of those things where maybe he got edged out, but I don't know that it was a robbery. I just feel like it was too close of a fight, and I feel like neither one of them did enough to really be like, this guy specifically won. You really had to break it down. You really had to pay attention. You really had to be involved in the whole thing. And I was none of those. I was having too much fun. We hanging out with everybody and drinking and everything like that. I rewatched it the next day though, and that's where I saw what went down, what happened, and how it wound up that way. And it is what it is. There's not much you can do about it. I thought these two guys were gonna go to war, and they didn't. So we'll see what's next. Pereira he can maybe fight Yuri Prohaska. That'd be dope. But he looks like he's in contention to get a title fight soon. So we'll see. That division's a little up in the air right now. But let's move on to the main event, the fucking fight of the night, everything, the craziness. Salt Lake City seems to put out head kick knockouts. It was crazy, man. Like, this is where Leon Edwards got that head kick knockout in the last minute of the last round against Kamaru Usman. We had like two other head kick knockouts happen in this card. Kopylov, and then the flying knee by Lewis. I think there might have even been one other head kick. I don't remember. But yeah, second round, a minute in. Poirier was looking like the Poirier we all know. And looking like he was going to come out ready to fight, ready to win. Gaethje was looking kind of reserved, but yet still like Gaethje. It wasn't a crazy firefight war, but it was a great fight. And next thing you know, a minute into the second round, Gaethje hides his kick behind this like little jab that he throws out there, and Poirier said he didn't see it, man. He just didn't see it. Gets head kicked, dropped, and finished. So it was crazy. And this was, by the way, for the BMF belt, the baddest motherfucker belt, which was previously held by Jorge Masvidal. And Masvidal actually squared these guys off at the press conference and then wrapped the belt around Gaethje, because Gaethje got that head kick, got the win, and in normal Gaethje fashion did the backflip off the top of the cage, which is insane, man. I don't know how the fuck he gets away with doing that without hurting himself, but it's dope. It's exciting. It's fun. And he runs away with that BMF belt. So, and there's Usman, his teammate, fucking happy as shit for him. Usman was hyped as fuck, man. He was in his seat yelling and screaming and jumping up and down. And when he got in that cage, he was so happy for his teammate, which is badass, man. I'm glad to see that, Gaethje's a good dude. I don't know how anybody could really hate him. He just seems like a nice, kind of calm guy. And, but he's a fucking master of violence and he's good at it. So congrats to Justin Gaethje, Arizona boy, for getting that BMF belt. I'm happy for him. I was sad for Dustin. I really do like Dustin. I predicted Dustin was going to win just because of the previous fight. You know, Dustin got a good win over him previously when they fought before, but that was a few years ago, and Justin has turned his game around and been much more of a thinking type fighter and calmed it down a little bit and doesn't just get into firefights and crazy wars. So good on him and Trevor Whitman getting things done, you know, making shit happen and getting the BMF belt. So hard not to say he is a badass motherfucker, that's for sure. And congrats to him on that one. Now, moving on to what the fuck I'm excited for this week, which UFC 291 was great, don't get me wrong, but I'm super excited for this matchup coming up this weekend. Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. What can I say? Diaz has to come out and has to shut Jake Paul up. That's what I need. That's what I gotta say. Because Jake Paul has been respectful here and there, but what I listened to today, what I watched today happening in the press conference from, was that yesterday? No, the press conference from today, the face-to-face from yesterday, Jake Paul is just coming out like a fucking douchebag, and it pisses me off. The respect is gone, apparently. Now he's like, wants to get into fight mode, and he's talking mad shit, being corny, being stupid. I shouldn't be surprised because he is kind of corny and stupid. And, yeah, that YouTuber's coming out of him. That's why people didn't like him from before. But now he's just saying super disrespectful shit. And, you know, yeah, they're going to fight. It is what it is. But my biggest thing is, you know, don't say the dumb shit. Like, he's on, you know, I know he's a YouTuber. He's funny. He knows social media. But he's out there, like, prank calling people, like, acting like he's Nate Diaz. He's on videos, fucking with his hat backwards, all low, fucking looking, I don't know, man. It just pisses me off. Maybe it's because Diaz is my boy. I like him. He's one of my favorites. He's always been one of my favorites. That I don't give a fuck attitude, just flipping people off all the time. Him and Cowboy flipping people off left and right. I love it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, we'll get into Diaz versus Jake Paul in a minute. But I did want to go over a couple things that are going on this card as well. And, you know, like I said earlier, actually, we'll start off with Nate Diaz's sparring partner / teammate, Chris Avila versus former UFC fighter Jeremy Stephens. Also fought in the PFL. He's been all over the place. I think, did he do bare knuckle boxing? I'm not sure. Either way, he just fought Jose Aldo not too long ago. Chris Avila has fought before as well in some of these influencer boxing type promotions. He fought somebody named Dr. Mike, who I'm not even sure who the fuck that is, but you know, he's part of the Nate Diaz camp. Diaz has definitely got his back, constantly hyping him up, bringing him up, you know, refusing to do the what do you call it, the open workout without him, just putting him over all the time, being a good teammate. So, you know, he fought in the UFC as well for a little while. Didn't have that great of a record, but now he's doing pretty decent in boxing. And then, like I said, Jeremy Stephens, former UFC fighter as well, little heathen. I'm sure you remember him or recognize him if you followed MMA for a while. But he fought Jose Aldo in Game Bred Boxing earlier this year, and you know, on that crazy card, and actually came to a draw with Jose Aldo, but not bad considering Aldo looking as good and as fast as he did during that fight. But he quickly retired after that, so you know, no more boxing for Aldo either. But Jeremy Stephens is continuing on fighting in all these different events and different promotions. And yeah, I think he's gonna, unfortunately for Avila, I think Jeremy Stephens is gonna put some work in. But Avila has been boxing, and he is from a boxing pedigree, you know, working out with, you know, the Diaz brothers and stuff. There's a lot of boxing involved there, and they have good boxing coaches too. So who knows? This should be a decent fight. Not bad for one of the undercard fights. But moving on to who we mentioned earlier, Amanda Serrano versus Heather Hardy. And Heather Hardy has also fought in MMA as well. But she's like 40 years old now. You know, she kind of went the Holly Holm route where, you know, a professional boxer for a while. I think she might have even held some titles at some point. I'm not sure. But, oh, actually she did, because Amanda Serrano beat her for a title when she first fought her. So this is the second time they fought. Amanda Serrano got the win before. Amanda Serrano's defending her WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO, and IBO, and the ring featherweight titles against Heather Hardy in the co-main event of this card. So that's a lot of fucking titles on the line. And Heather Hardy, you know, is here wanting to make a statement, maybe put some more titles under her belt. And yeah, this should be a pretty decent fight. Unfortunately, though, I think Amanda Serrano is way more on the top of things right now than Heather Hardy is. I don't know that Heather Hardy can actually hang with Amanda Serrano of today. Like, she got beat by her before, but you know, she's a champ in all these divisions for a reason, and she's doing big things, and she's about to go back into MMA. So who knows? Maybe with whatever happens here, Heather Hardy gets her chance at Amanda Serrano in MMA as well. That could be possible. But you know, Heather Hardy's been around for a while. If you pay attention to combat sports, I'm sure you've seen her around. Like I said, she's fought in MMA. I think she fought in Bellator. No, where did she fight? Damn, I can't even remember. Doesn't even matter. She fought in MMA for a little while. And has been a boxer for a long time. And as you can see here, pretty damn good at boxing as well. Like I said, she held a title that Amanda Serrano was the one that beat her to get that title. So here's a chance to avenge all of that, and we'll see what happens with Heather Hardy versus Amanda Serrano. Good things, big things happening in women's boxing. Love to see it. Glad that they get a chance to fight in this card. It's got a lot of eyes on it, and they're the co-main event, so can't beat that shit. Now, moving on to the main event. Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Ready for war. This Saturday. Fucking, I'm excited, man. You know, I'll buy this fight. I'm gonna watch it, and I'm excited. And I'm gonna be sitting there fucking nervous as hell, because Jake Paul is one of those guys that can be very dangerous, because he has been dedicated to boxing for a few years now, and he's just been getting better every time. And yeah, all of his opponents haven't been up to snuff, up to par, haven't been complete boxers like maybe Tyson, or not Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury, because that's who Jake Paul finally lost to after getting a bunch of knockouts left and right of ex-MMA fighters and influencers, or, you know, YouTubers, whatever you want to call them. But he got knockouts, straight up legit KOs against these guys. And then, you know, now you have him fighting a legitimate OG of the MMA world, and somebody who's been said to be quite the just great boxer in MMA as far as, you know, the sport goes, and that's Nate Diaz. So he's always talked about boxing. He's always talked about the fact that he spars with, you know, well-decorated professional boxers and does well. And, you know, he's always had people vouching for how good he is at boxing. And now he gets to prove it with his first professional boxing match against Jake Paul. It's a legit match. It's sanctioned, 10 rounds, everything. So, and, you know, he's also a co-promoter in this event with his Real Fight Inc. And then Jake Paul has MVP, Most Valuable Promotions. So, you know, it's like they're co-promoting and they're fighting. It's kind of cool, kind of crazy, but, you know, there's been nothing but craziness and fireworks and everything. Like I said, the press conference today was nothing but a shit talking shit fest. And you know, Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy were up there, and they barely got spoken to because it was just the Jake Paul Nate Diaz show. People out there talking shit, and in the end they faced off, and fucking all of the security got in a fight. Started throwing punches and shit. Nate Diaz looked like he was squaring up on Nikisa, whatever the fuck his name is. It's Jake Paul's like agent, or from, I don't know who the fuck he is. But yeah, it's just craziness, man. But like I said, Jake Paul, pretty legit. Been at it for a little bit now. Has 2 wins over Tyron Woodley. 1 being a KO. A legit KO. Nasty knockout. You know, he's got a win over Anderson Silva, which he did work with here. You know, as you can see, beat up Anderson pretty good. I mean, but here's the talk's always about how he's fighting washed up ex-MMA fighters who are old, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, he's making his way through. He's getting legit KOs against legit strikers. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to down on that one. You know, he even dropped Silva. You know, he didn't knock Silva out, but he did drop him, and he did get the win over him, and looked pretty damn good at it. And this was after, you know, Anderson Silva beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and looked really good in that boxing match right before he fought Jake Paul here. So, you know, and then he also, you know, he didn't look great against Tommy Fury, but he did still land some punches on a legit boxer, and wound up going, you know, however many rounds they win. I think they went 10 rounds too. I'm not sure. 8 rounds? I don't remember. But, you know, there's all that hype around that fight. And, you know, he didn't do horribly. So, can he handle 10 rounds? This is his... Actually, it had to have been 8 rounds because this is his first time going 10 rounds in a boxing match. It's Nate Diaz's first time fighting at 185 because in MMA he always fought at 155 or 170. He's never fought at 185. So Jake Paul's quite a bit bigger, and 185 is really where he fights anyway. And Nate Diaz is coming up to fight him there. But you know, Nate Diaz ain't scared. He's not scared. And he's fucking ready. And Ariel Helwani did this face-to-face thing that they always do in boxing. And it's like an interview with both of the guys. And, you know, they're going face-to-face, sitting at a table, talking. And Jake Paul's doing this bullshit where he's, like, staring at him all crazy, like, and Ariel Helwani asked him, like, why are you looking at him now? And he's like, oh, I'm just staring at my prey. Just saying corny ass bullshit like that to this guy, this motherfucker right here with the bloody face, saying what's up after he fucking, you know, finishes Conor McGregor, talking about, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. He's talking all this shit, you know, and I get it. Jake Paul has heavy hands. He's got power behind those punches, but fuck him, because I don't know that he can handle the punches and bunches that are going to come at him when it comes to Nate Diaz fighting the way he does. High volume, you know, 60-70% on all those punches, so he doesn't tire out. You know, he wears you down. He fucking puts work on you. You know, he's constantly coming after you, pressing forward, and fucking whether he gets hit or not, or gets hurt or not, he's still game to fucking throw everything he's got at you. And he's gonna throw punches from all angles, and you know, some of them may hurt, some of them may not, but it's definitely gonna fucking wear you down. You know, landing punches at the end of a fight that fucking wobbles somebody like he did against Leon Edwards. Yeah, he was getting his ass kicked most of that fight, but he landed this one punch, and all anybody could talk about was how he really beat Leon Edwards, because if it would have been like 2 seconds, 3 seconds more, he could have finished him. And afterwards, you know, that's all anybody could talk about. It didn't even matter what Edwards did. After that, it was like all about Nate Diaz. And, you know, he's beaten people like Conor McGregor. You know, and like I said, all of his punches may not be very super hard, may not have all the power behind it, but he's definitely going to hit you so many times you're not going to know what to do. You're going to wonder when it's going to stop, and it's going to wear you the fuck down. And you know, sometimes he does shit like point at you. Well, after he slaps you or after he hits you and catches you good and wobbles you like he did here. Now, if he didn't point at him and if he would have just pounced, he might have actually been able to finish Leon Edwards, but that's not Diaz fashion. This is more of what Diaz would normally do. And, you know, that's all there is to it. It's either pointing at you, throwing his hands up at you, saying, "What's up? What's next? What are you going to do now, motherfucker?" That's the Diaz way. So, in the middle of submitting guys, he'll fucking flip everyone off. He'll flex. He'll do all kinds of shit. He's a showman, even though a lot of times he doesn't even want to be in spotlight and doesn't want to talk all kinds of shit. But he will, and he does, and he's going to flip you the fuck off. And he's going to try to humiliate you by slapping the shit out of you with that Stockton slap that he does. Did it against Conor not once, but fucking twice. Multiple times in both fights, I believe. You know, at some point in time, he's like, you know, I've hit you so many times that I think I just want to slap the shit out of you right now. And he does. And he lands it, as he did here. And I mean, he's such a bad motherfucker that he even slapped the shit out of Dana White. Now, obviously, this was kind of staged. But just looking at that shit, I mean, he legit slapped the shit out of him. Maybe this is what made Dana want to do the slap fight league. Or maybe that's why he slapped the shit out of his wife, because he's like, hey, it happened to me, bitch. I'm gonna have to do it to you. Just kidding. I don't know. But my point is, Nate Diaz, bad motherfucker. OG, triple OG. Fucking legend in MMA. And now, moving over to boxing. Let's see what the fuck he can do. I'll tell you right now, he got up and walked out of the face-to-face because I think he was just sick and tired of fucking Jake Paul just being stupid, being cringy, fucking annoying, being a douche, and saying just dumb shit. So I think he got away from that because he knows he's about to slap the shit out of him. He's about to punch him. He's about to do something. He wants to kick his fucking ass. So I feel like that's why he left. Same thing with all these other interactions and shit that you've seen. He gets up and leaves because he's just like, I'm sick of this shit. And if I don't leave now, I'm going to beat the shit out of him. And he can't do that because they're fighting for money tomorrow night. Or not tomorrow night, Saturday night. So, you know, that's his way to contain himself. Plus, he's always been that way. He just gets up and leaves whenever the fuck he's ready. So, listen, I'm going for Nate Diaz. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I'm going to be the loudest one cheering when that motherfucker wins. And if he loses, I don't give a fuck. I'll sit here like this too. Like, fuck you. I don't give a shit. Because I guarantee he ain't going to knock him the fuck out. And if he does, well, shit. Worst things have happened. But Nate Diaz has only been TKO'd once against, I think, was it Jeremy Stevens? No. I don't remember who the fuck it was. It was way back in the day, though. He's never been, like, knocked out cold like Woodley got knocked out cold, or like Askren got knocked out cold, or like Nate Robinson got knocked out cold. He's never been knocked out like that. So I feel like no matter what happens, he's going to get up and do this. And I'm just fully fucking excited to see what Diaz can do with big gloves on for 10 rounds against somebody who just thinks he's the shit and needs to be shut the fuck up. So I'm going for Nate Diaz. I don't know about anybody else. I'm not going to say fuck you if you're going for Jake Paul, but fuck you if you're going for Jake Paul. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's all good. I understand. Jake Paul is what he is. I know a lot of people hate him too, though. So let's see how it goes. Now let's move on to the last event we're going to cover. UFC on ESPN 50. It's the fight night for this week. It's happening in Nashville, so UFC Nashville is probably what you're going to see. Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font. This was initially supposed to be Sandhagen versus... Oh shit, who is it supposed to be? Oh my god. I can't even remember. But I can find out real quick. Sandhagen versus... Oh man, what a pain in the ass. Let's see, canceled fights. Umar Nurmagomedov, that's who it was. So yeah, that's who he was supposed to fight initially. That would have been a banger, because Umar has been on a tear, and Sandhagen is always involved in a crazy fucking fight because he does crazy shit. But yeah, that's not happening. So now he's fighting Rob Font. Not too bad of a stand-in for Umar, because Rob Font is game as fuck and ready to fight too, and always goes out there ready to get a finish. So yeah, this I think should be a good damn fight. But at the bottom of the card, you know, it's not a fully stacked card. It's a fight night. But the first fight of the night, Ode Osborne versus Asu Almabayev. That's the first fight of the night. Let's see who else we got. Cody Durden versus Jake Hadley. Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson. That's the fourth fight of the night. Tyler Phillips versus Hani Barcelos. That should be a pretty damn good one. And that's about it for the prelims. So, you know, a few decent fights down there. You know, there's a couple others I didn't mention, but that's that for the prelims. Now let's move on to the main card. Ignacio Bahamondes versus Ludovic Klein. You know, I haven't really seen a whole lot from Ignacio, I'm gonna say, because Bahamondes, that's a lot to say. But he's 14-4, and he's coming off of a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. He's a Contender Series alum, so he's one of those Contender Series guys. Only has one loss in the UFC against John McDessie. So, and he has this win over Roosevelt Roberts, who is actually one of the guys on the Ultimate Fighter right now. You know, unfortunate loss for him here, but you know, and unfortunately he's no longer in the tournament for the Ultimate Fighter anymore either. I mean, he's still on the show, but he lost in the semis, so it's done for him. But that was Ignacio's first fight, or first win in the UFC, was against Roosevelt Roberts with the spinning heel kick right here, as you can see in this picture, the nasty kick. And his opponent is Ludovic Klein, who we've heard from before. 19-4, one of those guys. His nickname's Mr. Highlight. 19-4, coming off a draw to Jai Herbert back in March. Before that, he was on a 2-fight win streak. So yeah, I mean, he's got a couple losses as well in the UFC, but you know, one of those up and comers. You hear his name a lot. He's a decent fighter, so this should be an alright fight to start off the main card. Moving on to the next fight will be Tanner Boser versus Alexa Kamor. Tanner Boser we've covered before, definitely the bulldozer. He's 20-10, so that's a crazy record. He's on a 2-fight losing streak though, against his last fight being against Ian Cutelaba. Lost that by TKO. Man, he's got a lot of losses. Yes, his last 2 were losses. He had a win against Ovince St. Preux, so not bad. And then he had 2 losses before that, Ilir Latifi and Andrei Arlovsky. So it looks like he's, you know, trending to win here if you look at the pattern of his record. But, you know, this is against Ovince St. Preux, so obviously his last win. And, you know, St. Preux's no joke. Decent fighter. You know, not a super upper echelon type fighter, but definitely has been up there in contention before. So, but yeah, Tanner Boser fighting Alexa Kamor. I believe that's how you say his name. 6-2. He's coming off 2 losses in the UFC. Damn. And he's only had 1 legit win in the UFC. He's also coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. So yeah, he's only had one official win in the UFC, and his last 2 have been losses. So this is kind of a must win for him, but that's an opponent that's tough to win against in that fashion with Tanner Boser. But Tanner has a lot of losses as well, so who knows? We'll see how that fight goes. Next fight, Diego Lopez versus Gavin Tucker. Diego Lopez with that hair, man. I don't know about that hair. The hair, the tat on his chest, it says something kind of not cheesy or corny, but I don't know. Between the hair and that tattoo, I don't know. And then you got Gavin Tucker, who's just tatted the fuck up, looking like he just got out of prison. But Diego Lopez, 21-6, Brazilian, coming off a loss to Movsar Evloev. Before that, he was on a 2-fight win streak. But yeah, he's only fought once in the UFC, and that was his last fight was a loss. That was May of this year, so he's looking for his first win in the UFC. Yeah, I'm trying to see here. He's from Dana White's Contender Series as well, but he lost there. Weird. Okay. I thought there was a mouse in his record there, but yeah, his opponent Gavin Tucker, Canadian, 13-2, coming off a loss as well to Dan Ige, but before that he was on a 3-fight win streak, so not a bad matchup here. For let's see. Oh man, I got shit locking up on me here. Okay, that's a featherweight bout. Moving on to the next fight, though. I'm kind of flying through these because I'm like, I talked about all the good shit. This fight card is just one of those. It's like there. I'm excited about the co-main and the main event, but the rest of these fights are just like, you know, they're decent fights. They could be great. They could be good, but maybe not so much. Who knows? Dustin Jacoby versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Nzechukwu, you know, is a decent fighter. Nothing crazy out of either one of these guys. Jacoby is 18-7 on a 2-fight losing streak too. So a lot of these guys are coming off of losses. That's why I say, you know, it's just one of those cards where a lot of fillers type fights, but sometimes that's where you get some of the best fights. So coming off 2-fight losing streak, like I said. Before that, he had put together 5 wins in a row. And actually more than that if you count the ones before the draw. So it just seems to be on a losing skid as of late. But, you know, he could turn it around here against Kennedy Nzechukwu, who is 12-3. He's on a 3-fight win streak. So this is not looking good for Jacoby. Nzechukwu, 3 wins in a row. All TKO wins except for the last one, which is actually a submission by guillotine. Before that, he had lost 2 in a row. But it looks like he always wins by KO, TKO, or sub, except for one decision mixed in there. So yeah, I mean, this could looks like a lopsided fight on paper, with Nzechukwu being the one with the upper hand, but we'll see what happens if Dustin Jacoby can snap that losing streak. Oh shit, my screen just blanked out. That's crazy. That's it telling me to hurry the fuck up and finish this podcast. Just kidding. Oh shit, it's seriously flashing out on me. That's not cool. All right, let's just keep going. All right, so this fight, next fight, is one that I'm looking forward to definitely. Jessica Andrade, former strawweight champion, versus Tatiana Suarez. Highly touted, crazy wrestler, grappler. She was out for a long time due to, you know, injuries. She injured her knee, her neck, maybe even a back injury in there. But she's had multiple surgeries, and then she finally came back. But Jessica Andrade is a beast. Brazilian, 24-11. Like I said, former champ. She is on a 2-fight losing streak though. She lost to Erin Blanchfield and Yan Xiaonan. Both by finishes too, so she can get finished. Even though she's a beast and she finishes people most of the time. Crazy, you know, punches and throws and kicks and everything. She finishes a lot of people by a lot of different ways. TKO punches, TKO elbow, KO punches to the body. This is how this fight ended. That's Caitlin Chikagian. Even though that's a nasty punch right there in that picture, she actually finished her by punches to the body, which is crazy. But she's lost to the bigger names, you know, Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang, Valentina Shevchenko, Erin Blanchfield. So, yeah, she's looking for a win to get off this losing streak that she's on. But she's fighting a tough opponent in Tatiana Suarez. You know, like I said, crazy grappler, crazy wrestler. She's undefeated in the UFC, 9-0. Undefeated overall, actually. She's never lost in MMA. In the UFC, she is 6-0. And, you know, she's got mostly submission wins. So, I mean, this is looking like a shoo-in for Suarez to win this fight, especially with Andrade being mostly a stand-up fighter. I mean, she can win by she can win by submission as well. She's decent on the ground, but Suarez is like a fucking beast on the ground. So she's going to be looking for that takedown quickly to avoid those heavy punches of Jessica Andrade. And she's going to be looking to get it to the ground and do that crazy ground and pound that she's got, or, you know, sink into submission. But she's definitely good at fighting her way to get the good position to, you know, end up in a submission and to get that win. I'm excited for this fight just because I like Tatiana Suarez a lot. I don't like Jessica Andrade that much. I mean, I respect her as a fighter. I think she's a great fighter and she's had her day, but I'm not so sure that she's going to continue on a good win streak or, you know, continue in that winning fashion, getting up there and, you know, fighting for a belt again. I feel like her days kind of passed in that fashion. So I'm looking at Tatiana Suarez to get in there and do work. She kind of reminds me of Khabib Nurmagomedov, you know, back in the day, kept getting hurt, having trouble with weight, you know, and stuff like that. But then wound up putting it all together and going on a crazy run to, you know, gain the belt and keep the belt and defend it for a while. And I feel like that's kind of the fighter Tatiana Suarez is. And she just needs to get some more wins under her belt. And this is a good win to get against the next champ. So that's it for that one. I'm looking forward to that one for sure. And then the main event, Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font. Like I said before, this was supposed to be Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov, but Nurmagomedov got an injury, I believe, or something of that sort. Why does my monitor keep flashing out? It's pissing me off. This is my newest monitor, so that can't happen. Is it hot? What the hell's going on? Anyway, Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov was the original fight. Now it's Sandhagen versus Font. Not too bad of a, you know, replacement fight there. Rob Font is a decent fighter and can definitely give Sandhagen a good fight. But we'll start with Sandhagen, Mr. Sandman. Of course, with the big strikes, always coming out for a crazy fight. 16-4. He's on a 2-fight win streak, with his last 2 wins being against Song Yadong and Marlon Vera. A lot of decisions, but at the same time, he's got some exciting wins as well against Frankie Edgar with that flying knee, Marlon Moraes TKO spinning wheel kick and punches. Yeah, I mean, he always has this crazy knee that you're going to see in every single one of his fights. Kind of a standing flying knee. Like, he'll just be standing in front of you and then just springboard and throw a knee and land it on you. So he's exciting when it comes to that. And that's definitely something to look out for. And, you know, like I said, he's an exciting fighter. So he's definitely always looking for something like that to land and to get the win. But his opponent, Rob Font, 20-6. Coming off a win against Adrian Yanez by TKO in the first round. Before that, though, he had 2 losses against big names, though. Marlon Vera and Jose Aldo, like shit. Before that, he had 4 wins against Cody Garbrandt, Marlon Moraes, Ricky Simone, and Sergio Pettis. This one here being against Ricky Simone. Rafael Sunsao, he lost to. Thomas Almeida win. Pedro Munoz lost. I mean, he's fought a lot of big names. And, you know, he's kind of got a back and forth record, but when he goes on win streaks, they're pretty long, at least 3 or 4 fights. So maybe he's on his path to get into another one of those long win streaks. Good strikes. This is against Cody Garbrandt. I mean, Cody Garbrandt's no punk, so like watching him get that. I mean, this wound up in a decision win, but he landed a lot of big punches on him. And you know, a lot of decisions in his record, but at the same time, it's always exciting to watch Rob Font win. So we'll see what he has to do to get past Corey Sandhagen, or is Corey Sandhagen gonna just make him part of his highlight reel? Who knows? Should be a decent fight. Catch that on Saturday. As for me, I'm about done. It's been fun. I got to go over the PaulDiaz fight, which I'm excited about. I'm going for Nate Diaz all day. I don't give a fuck if he loses. I don't give a fuck. I'm still part of the Diaz army. I love the dude. I love his brother, Nate Diaz. I followed him forever. So I'm fucking going for Nate Diaz. Kiss my ass if you don't like it. And if you do like it, hell yeah. Let's do the damn thing. I'm a realist, though, when it comes down to it. Jake Paul's been doing big things. So we'll see what the outcome of that is, but I'm excited for it. So don't forget to watch that shit on Saturday. Tomorrow night, you have One Championship on Prime Video, and you have PFL, the playoffs, happening tomorrow night as well on ESPN Plus. And on Saturday, you can catch UFC Nashville, or UFC on ESPN 50, whatever you want to call it. That's happening on ESPN and ESPN Plus on Saturday. And then you also have Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz on Saturday night as well. That's a pay-per-view, but you can get it on DAZN, on the DAZN app, or on ESPN Plus as well. It's the first time they're actually having one of those fights co-promote between DAZN and ESPN for the pay-per-view. So you can watch it on any of those. I'll be watching, and I can't wait for next week to go over all of it and talk about how Diaz kicked the shit out of Jake Paul. We'll see what happens. Until then, I'm out. This day's been crazy. I got to wrap all this shit up and go chill because I haven't had time to chill at all today. But tomorrow's fucking Friday, so let's do this shit. Let's get out of here. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the fucking fights. Watch them all. Watch some. Who gives a shit? Just watch me next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Come back next week. Thanks for joining me. I'm out. Peace.